Good evening. A dramatic negotiating tactic or a move designed to cripple the Canadian economy. The U.S. president's threatened 50% tariffs have dramatically escalated the trade war between the two countries.
Donald Trump telling reporters today that Canada needs the U.S. to survive, but Canadian leaders say they are not backing down. We begin our coverage tonight with CTV's Judy Trin.
A source close to the government tells CTV News the Prime Minister was caught off guard by the announcement of new 50% tariffs.
I spoke with President Trump earlier this morning. We agreed to intensify negotiations in the coming weeks.
The tariffs will impact more than 500 additional products, from hockey sticks to wine to cement. That's about 5% or $28 billion worth of Canadian exports.
Only response to the way they've treated our farmers and our people. Yeah, Canada's been very, very tough on us over the years, for many years, and no other president's done anything about it. I mean, in all fairness to them, they need us to survive.
The opposition leader says the new duties are unjustified and wrong, and is calling for all parties to work together to prevent them from happening. The Carney government has already made several concessions. It's splitting revenues on the Gordie Howe Bridge before it recoups the cost of building it. The digital services tax has been scrapped, and the Online Streaming Act rolled back. But the Trump administration says irritants like the provincial alcohol ban and supply management in the dairy sector remain.
Things that do not fundamentally commit to resolve these issues, maybe just talk about them some more. And for us, we want them fixed.
Carney wants debilitating tariffs on steel, aluminum, and autos removed, and Kuzma preserved, but says putting U.S. liquor back on shelves will be up to the provinces.
The decision to change that, first and foremost, will be taken by the provinces themselves, each individually, and should only be taken, in my judgment, as part of an overall agreement.
Carney did not rule out retaliatory action, which a former Trudeau policy advisor says could be effective.
There are approximately 500 products that they are applying tariffs to from Canada, none of which are oil, none of which are critical minerals, the things that they know that if the costs of astronomically rise, that it will drastically affect their industry.
The Carney government will have less than a month to negotiate its way out of these new U.S. tariffs. They're set to take effect August 19th. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, more on the economic impact of Trump's tariffs and how much it will cost the average Canadian and American household as the trade war with the U.S. heats up. But first, the issue of affordability is pushing some at City Hall to look at tackling surveillance pricing in Toronto.
The practice allows companies to adjust prices based on things like people's personal data. The Premier has said he's opposed to banning it, but the Mayor and some councillors want staff to look at how the city could do just that. CTV's Beth McDonnell is live tonight with more on the proposal and the possible issues it could face. Beth.
Andrea, I spoke with a law professor who has been studying surveillance pricing for years. He says the city could be limited in creating a ban, but says there's still things it could do. Surveillance pricing at the grocery store threatens to harvest your digital information, allowing companies to sell you food at top dollar based on what they know about you.
The goal is always the same, to charge you as much as possible, often using your personal data.
It's a practice Mayor Olivia Chow alongside City Councillor Alejandra Bravo want to prevent. At the Executive Committee, Chow put forward a motion asking the city manager to study legal pathways to enact a ban in stores and online. The goal to keep groceries more affordable after years of sky-high prices and stop companies from being unfair.
The city can and will ban surveillance pricing in Toronto to stop price gouging at the grocery store.
I commend the mayor for even making this public to get Canadians aware.
Law professor Jacob Fodu has been studying surveillance pricing for years and calls it opaque. He says there is no hard proof it's happening in Canada, but the technology exists and it's being used in the U.S. And to stop it, the city is limited.
What the city cannot arguably do, or actually cannot concretely do alone, is to impose this real citywide ban on every grocer, especially online and delivery, because that would be almost impossible.
He says while Ottawa has a bill to overhaul privacy laws, there is no law to explicitly stop surveillance pricing. This spring, Premier Doug Ford slammed a ban, adding pricing is better left up to the free market. But Afodu says there are still things the city could do with its own law.
Maybe the mayor can refuse to do business with grocers who price this way, or maybe they can write it into city contracts and city leases.
Chow and Bravo point out Manitoba is looking at a ban and believe it's what consumers want.
Once you see some movement in one municipality, it's often that other municipalities take it up. There are relationships through the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and collaboration there. So this is just the beginning.
They say they're looking at every tool to help working Torontonians. Afodu says there are ways consumers can help protect themselves by being aware where you're logging into, asking apps not to track your location, and comparing prices on different devices. But he says it's important provincial and federal governments take action. He says some of the most serious laws around this have come into place in the state of Maryland and the EU. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Andrea, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. More news in a moment. First, here is a look at the forecast, the live look at the forecast. Lindsay Morrison joins us now with the current conditions. And Lindsay, today, really, that rain came down, and you know, I have an umbrella in my car, but you know, sometimes you think you can run faster than the rain. Well, you can't when it's coming down heavily, so I paid the price.
I'm guilty of this too, Andrea. But today, yeah, it was downpours and rounds of thunderstorms. So chances are you got hit more than one time today when it came to active weather. Here's some good news. Widespread severe thunderstorm watch has come to an end for the west end of the GTA, right across southwest Ontario. We still have a severe thunderstorm warning in place for the Uxbridge and Cannington areas. Here's what that looks like on the satellite and radar. So a lot of lightning here, some heavy downpours once again. Toronto still included in that watch, but it's likely to come to an end in the next little bit as well. And we've got rain, thunder and lightning right along the shoreline of Lake Ontario into areas like Durham, Port Hope, Cobourg, and even over toward Belleville. Finally, it has stopped raining in and around the city of Hamilton and Niagara Falls. Probably not entirely in the clear just yet, but it's been a soaker of a day. Temperature-wise, look at that. We've cooled down. It's 19 degrees right now here in the city of Toronto. It's been muggy. It still feels like 25 right now. And these winds are going to start to pick up. Right now, they're coming out of the west. Could be gusting to near 50 kilometers per hour a little later today. And then tonight, this is a bit of a cool down. 16 degrees for the low, and tomorrow it could feel like early fall. We'll talk all about it in your weather forecast coming up, but for now, Andrea, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Also tonight, upgrades at Pearson are about to take flight. The airport reveals its $1.5 billion makeover to create a smoother experience for travelers.
The 17-year-old boy is fighting for his life after being stabbed on a bus in Mississauga. It happened just before 2 a.m. on board a bus near Ontario and Watline Avenue. An 18-year-old woman was arrested at the scene.
Our officers then worked quickly to identify and arrest an 18-year-old female, and I've since charged her with attempted murder, assault with a weapon, and obstruct police related to this incident. She'll be held in custody pending a bail hearing at the Ontario Court of Justice, and we're asking anyone who has any information regarding this incident to contact our 11 Division CIB investigators.
Investigators say the stabbing was isolated and there's no threat to public safety.
Police have arrested a doctor at the Hospital for Sick Children in connection with an internet child exploitation investigation. 44-year-old Dylan DeSanke has been arrested and charged with possession of child sexual abuse and exploitation material and accessing child sexual abuse and exploitation material. Investigators say they have found no evidence that the material is connected to his practice as a physician. Police say the investigation is ongoing. Sick Kids Hospital has released a statement which reads in part, "We are deeply upset and dismayed by this news and condemn the behavior alleged in the police investigation. We understand that this news is concerning and the safety and well-being of our patients, families, and staff remain our highest priority. Sick Kids has not been notified of any risk to patients and families."
To Queen's Park next, where we're learning more about what appears to be lavish expenses that allowed some Ontario MPPs to live large.
As CTV's John Woodward reports, records show the Constituency Association of Ontario's embattled Labour Minister has also been a big spender.
Years ago, Northumberland Peterborough MPP David Piccini could be spotted at events at a local pub in Port Hope. After he became Labour Minister in late 2023, records show something changed. Hospitality costs borne by his constituency association swelled from $12,000 to almost $50,000, buoyed by $1,800 at the Four Seasons, $2,000 at the Conservative Albany Club in Toronto, $237 at the Antonio Park, a luxury restaurant on the 51st floor of the Manulife Centre.
These folks, they're living large.
A lifestyle, says Liberal interim leader John Fraser, that happened as Piccini gained control over $2.5 billion in a government jobs fund.
See this gigantic increase in donations, which relates to the Skills Development Fund.
Piccini already facing an Integrity Commissioner investigation over whether he broke the law in giving out those grants, something he's always denied. The association's chief financial officer doubts Piccini was living large on donations from people trying to get grants.
I really doubt it. He's a pretty honest guy. I doubt if there's anything like that going on with David Piccini.
The PC's reeling this week after revelations former Tourism Minister Stan Cho's constituency association was spending thousands on trips and meals. Cho resigned after it emerged he'd spent more than $16,000 on hotels in Toronto, where he lives. More than a dozen nearby MPPs spent $100,000. The Premier says they'll repay it.
If you guys think for a second I'm happy about this, you're wrong. It's unacceptable.
The Premier said, I deserve a luxury private jet, so I'm buying one. So everybody else is just following suit.
The Constituency Association records are kept at this Elections Ontario office on paper, something one watchdog wants to change.
All of that should be required to be regular disclosure online in a searchable database. That's what the internet's for.
Making it less likely that expenses like these won't be discovered for years. John Woodward, CTV News.
Pearson Airport has announced plans for the second phase of their multi-billion-dollar modernization project.
The project will include major changes to both Terminals 1 and 3. CTV's Rahim Ladani has the details.
The terminals inside Canada's busiest airport will soon be getting a $1.5 billion upgrade.
It will elevate shopping and provide new dining and new travel experiences.
This is phase 2 of Toronto Pearson International Airport's decade-long transformation. Phase 1 broke ground back in May with a $3 billion price tag, focused on upgrading airfield technology and the baggage network.
As part of this program, we'll have improved and additional digital as well as static signage to help make the passenger journey more reliable and take out the anxiety.
Pearson Airport's first modern terminal opened back in 1964. The current Terminal 1 welcomed travelers in 2004, while Terminal 3 opened in 1991. Officials say this revitalization will upgrade aging infrastructure and enhance the passenger experience by improving security screening, check-in area, baggage processing, charging spaces, and lounges.
A series of manageable chunks of work that are going to be done and organized in such a way to minimize the pain that passengers are going to be experiencing.
When that pain is going to start and how long it's going to last are questions which still need to be answered. But company officials say they're still very early in the planning stages.
We're trying to focus in on some of the specifics, but I think some obvious things. We're going to look to make the space brighter, more spacious, organized in a way that's intuitive.
On the horizon is also phase 3, creating more terminal space. The airport expects to see 65 million passengers per year by the early 2030s. That would mean serving roughly 30,000 more passengers a day. Rahim Ladani, CTV News.
We turn now to the fires raging in northern Ontario. Early estimates suggest this could be the province's worst wildfire season to date. There are 183 active fires, more than 50 of them out of control. It's believed the flames have burned over 7,200 square kilometers of forest and forced more than 1,800 people from their homes. All but one of the 13 evacuated communities are First Nations. Today, Indigenous leaders called for the resignation of the Ministry of Natural Resources Director and an immediate public inquiry into the province's response to the wildfires.
The province's Public Inquiries Act is meant to investigate matters of public interest.
The lack of communication and evacuation support should horrify all Canadians, and our community was on its own. The federal government has responsibility here too. We won't accept any jurisdictional disputes. In the year 2026, how could this happen? More importantly, how do we make sure this never happens again?
The fires have also sent smoke into the United States. Today, President Donald Trump insisted the wildfires had nothing to do with his plan to impose 50% tariffs on a number of Canadian goods, but says the smoke is a big problem.
A lot of damage has been done. They're not managing their forests properly, and the wind has a tendency to blow right over New York City, right over, you saw Detroit, they had to close the whole place. Michigan was really affected. They had to close businesses for 4 days. It's very serious what they're doing, and they don't seem to be able to do anything about it. If they managed their forests, they wouldn't have the fire.
Recent rain and cooler temperatures have helped firefighters make progress in Ontario, but the hazard remains high, and officials expect the fires to continue.
9 of Canada's 10 provinces have signed an agreement to expand direct-to-consumer alcohol sales across the country. That's in lieu of putting American alcohol back on the shelves. CTV's Maria Saru has the details.
We've got a very busy schedule over the next 48 hours, 72 hours. This is going to make it a little busier.
Donald Trump's tariffs meant some rearranging for PEI's Premier Rob Lance hosting and chairing this week's Council of the Federation meetings. And as his counterparts arrived, some were losing patience with the U.S. president.
We need to stand up to the bully, and we need to hit him tariff to tariff.
There is not a chance in hell that U.S. alcohol is going back on the shelf in British Columbia. And the idea of the president that he can bully us into whatever he wishes is incorrect.
Several premiers said Ottawa has not asked them to reverse course on American alcohol bans.
No, the federal government hasn't asked me to lift it, and I will be supportive of the decisions made by all the premiers and the Prime Minister.
But Alberta and Saskatchewan already have. Both lifted their suspensions last year.
I want a trade agreement with the United States of America. They're our largest trading partner, have been for all of our life, yours and I's, and likely will be into the future. At the end of the day, why would you want to fight with your largest trading partner?
It's ultimately a province-by-province decision, but some are calling for a united response and a clear direction from the Prime Minister before new tariffs take effect in about a month.
Quebec's economy is really impacted by the tariffs, and we'll need to adopt a strategy.
We need a plan moving forward.
The premiers continue their talks tomorrow before Mark Carney joins them in person on Thursday. Maria Saru, CTV News, Charlottetown.
If the new U.S. tariffs come into effect, there are concerns about the impacts they would have on Canada's alcohol producers.
CTV's Sean Leathon went to Niagara today to speak with winemakers.
It has been a good year for grape growing in Ontario, and Curtis Fielding says that's not just because of the weather.
U.S. wine's off the shelf. It's brought new buyers to the Ontario wine scene.
Fielding Estate Winery in Lincoln has been around for 20 years, and Fielding says that the threat of a 50% tariff on wines sold to the U.S. is more than a little empty because the U.S. system has always had barriers.
It's basically you export it from Canada to an importer there, which takes a cut, and then to a distributor that takes another cut. So they're taking cuts all the way along, and there's nothing left for the farmer or the winery. So
he says they tried selling into the U.S. years ago, and it wasn't worth it, and many others in the region feel the same. Before American wine came off the shelves in Ontario, Canada imported $550 million worth a year, while the U.S. brought in just $8 million in Canadian wine.
Ontario in Canada is it's probably one of the most open markets.
According to the Wine Growers of Ontario, 70% of the Canadian market are imports and just 30% domestic, unlike other wine growing regions.
You know, go to France and try and find a bottle of Italian wine, or go to Italy and try and find a bottle of French wine. You know, our domestic market share is quite small compared to almost every other wine producing region around the world.
We're still seeing lots of U.S. customers and tourism here, which has been great.
Fielding says their business has grown 20% since the start of the trade war, but the pain has been felt elsewhere.
Gas prices going up has increased our costs a lot with transportation. Like, we get a lot of glass in. All our suppliers are increasing their transportation costs.
He says tariffs won't hurt their business or many in Niagara. It's just the uncertainty with the larger economy that's creating the squeeze. The LCBO is one of the largest buyers of alcohol in the world, so taking U.S. products off the shelf certainly hurts south of the border. The 50% threat of tariffs on Canadian alcohol doesn't necessarily hit the same. Sean Lee Thong, CTV News.
Well, the cost of those potential new tariffs wouldn't just affect Canadians. Many in the U.S. would also feel some economic pain.
CTV's Adrian Gabriel has a look at the impact of U.S. tariffs on both sides of the border.
From tariffs on Canadian dairy and cereal to made-in-Canada plastics to additional swings at Canadian wood products.
All of this is extra taxes that American consumers and businesses are going to have to pay.
The tariff campaign launched by the Trump administration in early 2025 has upended North America's integrated trade relationship, rocking once reliable supply chains while inflating costs for consumers on both sides of the border. Trump's tariffs thus far are estimated to be costing the average U.S. household between $1,400 and $2,400 Canadian dollars annually. And that could spike if these new tariffs go into effect in less than 30 days.
Probably the one that's going to have the biggest impact is tariffs on Canadian cereals and dairy. This is going to drive up grocery prices even further for American consumers. It's really going to hurt American families.
North of the border, wallets here are also feeling the pinch. Canadian households are absorbing an estimated $2,300 to $2,700 in higher annual costs since the tariffs came into effect.
It's making life worse for Canadian families and for American families.
The tariff cycle has also impacted the Canadian economy. Economists are estimating a reduction in Canada's GDP by 1.5 to 2%. The country also lost roughly 61,000 manufacturing jobs since January of last year, when President Trump's second term began.
There's a reason why we need to hold our breath here. There's a reason why we have to take this seriously. I can imagine the pain that so many of the exporters are feeling.
As Canada's economy hangs in the balance, many market watchers believe the federal government's response needs to be measured, in part to protect the cost of living for Canadian consumers.
Economists point out that there was no significant reaction from the markets following President Donald Trump's most recent tariff ultimatum. One theory is that the markets may believe that Washington and Ottawa could reach a trade deal in the weeks ahead. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Stouffville, Ontario.
Meanwhile, the federal government says that in light of the latest tariff threats, Canada will not be celebrating the opening of the Gordie Howe International Bridge with the United States. Instead, there will be a Canada-only celebration on Friday. That's the same day the original ribbon-cutting ceremony was scheduled for. Vehicles will be able to start using the bridge between Windsor and Detroit next Monday. Cyclists and pedestrians can begin crossing on August 5th.
And Donald Trump pledged to help Lebanon, including assisting the country's army move into villages that Hezbollah has withdrawn from.
We have some very concrete plans already in store for that, with others going in and helping. But they're also becoming much more self-sufficient.
The U.S. president spoke during an Oval Office meeting with his Lebanese counterpart. He was there to present a plan on how to disarm the Iran-backed militant group and secure Israel's withdrawal from his country. Now, Trump said he would speak to Hezbollah if Lebanon wants him to. After the meeting, he announced that American commercial aircraft can resume direct flights to Lebanon for the first time in more than 40 years. Elsewhere, the U.S. and Iran exchanged attacks for the 10th straight day. The Americans continued airstrikes on the Islamic Republic, and Iran struck a tanker in the Strait of Hormuz, forcing the crew to abandon ship. Tehran also kept up attacks against U.S. allies in the region. Trump says the U.S. has no interest in meeting with the Iranians.
In France, lawmakers have approved a bill banning children under 15 from using social media. The move makes France the first country in the European Union to pass a blanket ban on platforms. Concerns have been growing worldwide over the harmful effects of digital content on kids. Both chambers of the parliament voted today in favor of the measure. The bill also bans the use of mobile phones in high schools.
There's been a remarkable rescue of a dog that's been missing for several weeks. The puppy was spotted off San Francisco Bay last week, and that's when a rescue team sprung into action. They found the small dog swimming near a park on Thursday and managed to bring him to safety. The puppy was reported missing on the 4th of July, but has now been reunited with his family.
Meanwhile, some folks in Gold Hill, Colorado awoke to a wild surprise Sunday. A bear had somehow broken into a car and became, you see it there, locked inside. The locals thought a rude neighbor was honking a horn all night, but it turns out it would be this would-be thief whose escape plan was thwarted. A long rope did the trick, opening the door and allowing the bear to get out and flee back into the woods. We're assuming back into the woods. Maybe to another car.
Coming up, accessibility advocates are calling it the stupidest ramp in the world. The scathing video ramping up criticism toward Metrolinx and the response.
So the winds today have been predominantly coming out of the southwest. Tonight, it's going to be a westerly wind, and then tomorrow, that brisk northerly breeze is going to make it feel a little cool out there. Fortunately, it's just a bit of a one-off. We are going to warm up again for this weekend. In fact, we could be flirting with 30 once again. Those northwest winds could also do a decent job of clearing out any leftover wildfire smoke and humidity that we experienced today. Stay with us. We'll take you through the 7-day forecast when CTV News returns.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Well, for some transit users with physical challenges, it's meant to provide a convenient connection from new Line 6 to Line 1 at Finch West Station.
But accessibility advocates are calling it the stupidest ramp in the world. CTV's Janice Golding explains why.
This three-tiered, 261-foot-long ramp at the new Finch West subway station is coming under fire.
There's no elevator to get from line 6 to line 1 if you want to change train. You've got to go up the stupidest ramp in the world.
Please stand clear of doors. The AODA, or Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act Alliance, creating a scathing video lambasting Metrolinx for not including an elevator so people can transfer from the new Finch West line to the Young University Spadina line.
I know it seems absurd for me to call it short when it's long, but to go up that distance, you'd need a much longer ramp, or you need to be a Paralympian with that kind of upper body strength.
The video is getting a lot of attention, with commenters pointing out that elevators break, while others say they hate this ramp. Meanwhile, at the station,
it's good. It's for me, old people, it's very, very good.
Better than nothing, right? Better than nothing.
Some fair reviews, although the vast majority said,
hassle to walk. Tax money waste.
I walk slow, and to go up and down, it's hard. They should put an escalator.
Well, I used the stairs actually because I was like, I don't want to walk, all the way here. It's too much walking for me. Like, this is way too long.
I think it's disgusting.
Why?
I usually have a shopping cart, so I have to drag it 3-4 times the length of this.
In response, Metrolinx says it consulted with TTC and the TTC's Advisory Committee on Accessible Transit with regards to the design, adding, "We recognize the importance of ongoing feedback and continuous improvement. Metrolinx is pursuing user testing with individuals representing a range of disabilities." The AODA, however, calls the response evasive nonsense.
It's just not true. They create the illusion of accessibility, but not delivering the reality of accessibility.
Janice Golding.
All right, to the forecast. I know some wanted rain, but maybe not the thunder.
And maybe not so much rain at once. I don't know.
Lightning. I was driving downtown this afternoon, and I just kept going, ooh, ooh. And then some people, it was actually interfering with their radio or when they were on the phone. The lightning was so strong. So.
A lot of frequent lightning today, some very heavy downpours, all the makings of a severe weather day. And so it was as billed, and now we are finally seeing things settle down. That's a nicer view of our city skyline out there compared to even just an hour ago. Let's take a look at some of the damage as a result of this storm today. And when I say damage, some of it is in fact a little bit of localized flooding. So some mud in many areas thanks to the heavy downpours that impacted primarily the west end of the GTA. GTA. That's where the heaviest, stormiest weather happened today, but I mean, it was fairly widespread across the GTA. This is video, of course, out of the Hamilton area, Stony Creek, as well as Grimsby, dealing with scenes like this as well, and some road closures in place in and around the city of Hamilton also because of all that rain, having nowhere to go. So we'll wait and see the final total numbers of just how much rain fell through the day yesterday, but I believe at one point Hamilton was under a severe thunderstorm warning 3 or 4 times separately today. So similar communities getting hit again and again by thunderstorms. Here's some good news. We are starting to see some of these severe thunderstorm watches come to an end. So all done for the city of Toronto, but communities still to the east of there under that watch. Gone is the severe thunderstorm warning for the Uxbridge area too. Here's a close look at what we're dealing with. Still some remnant showers, and there is still some thunder and lightning now to the southeast of Lake Simcoe. But great improvements as far as severe weather is concerned. And again, the severity of these storms, the biggest concern, the heavy downpours, but we've also had gusty winds and small hail in places. So this is an upper low, and as it circulates and rotates, we are seeing severe weather stateside. Also for us, we're going to usher in some very cool air for tomorrow. Cool, relatively speaking, for the month of July. There could still be some leftover rain showers early tomorrow morning. Mix of sun and cloud for us, if not in the morning, certainly in the afternoon. And then we are back into sunshine for your Thursday and for your Friday, with temperatures slowly starting to rebound at that point too. Right now we're at 21 degrees, feeling like 27. So we've seen the temperature dip here and there with the arrival of the rain and the thunderstorms. Overnight tonight, a low of 16 degrees is near normal for us here in Toronto. But you'll recall we've had some very warm overnight lows so far this summer. We are going to be below 20 degrees for the low, and then barely making it past 20 degrees for a daytime high tomorrow. So a below seasonal day. Northwest winds could be gusting to 40, even 50 kilometers per hour in places. And depending on where you're spending your day tomorrow, perhaps you're around the shoreline of Georgian Bay, Lake Huron, or in through parts of cottage country like Muskoka or the Kawarthas, it's likely to feel maybe more like September at times tomorrow compared to mid-July, when we are traditionally heading into the hottest point of the season. Your 7-day forecast does show a return to some heat over the weekend. Our temperature is expected to be near 30 for the high both Saturday and Sunday, but we're keeping an eye on Sunday, especially now, for the chance of a few showers. That's your look at the weather. Andrea, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, can weight loss and diabetes drugs help reduce heavy drinking? A new study examines the effect of GLP-1 therapy on alcohol addiction.
Drugs like Ozempic have been associated with other health benefits like cardiovascular and liver health.
Now, a new study suggests another positive link to reducing alcohol-related hospitalizations. Our health reporter Pauline Chan has more.
GLP-1 agonist drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy were first used in controlling diabetes, then for weight control.
We've seen how they can help with cravings related to food. And so the leading theory is that GLP-1s can affect the part of the brain that, control feeling full and feeling rewarded. And so kind of lends itself to thinking maybe that could work for alcohol and drugs.
They looked in different relevant populations. So one was a group of people with diabetes that is the primary group who these drugs are prescribed for. A second group was people with obesity who didn't necessarily have diabetes. And then the third study was interesting, was a study of people with alcohol use disorders.
U.S. researcher Emma Haller says the reduction in alcohol-related hospitalizations was significant for all three groups.
So in the diabetes and obesity medication comparisons, the risk was about 22 to 32% lower.
Toronto liver specialist Dr. Jordan Feld says the numbers were even more striking for those with alcohol use disorder.
In the alcohol group, they're actually comparing the GLP-1 agonists to treatment for alcohol use disorder. So other drugs that are used to try to reduce alcohol use in people with alcohol use disorders. And they actually found a much more significant effect, about a 2/3 reduction. So 65% reduction in admission for alcohol-related complications.
Haller says more study is needed, but this is not the first study to look at GLP-1 agonists in connection with addictions. Could these drugs someday be used in addiction treatment?
I definitely think that's a possibility. It's obviously premature. We wouldn't recommend at this point using GLP-1 specifically for that indication, but I think this study, along with some of the other published literature, really gives us a sense that maybe there's something here.
Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Spending hours in front of the TV could be linked to changes in the brain later in life, according to a new study. Researchers followed more than 1,700 adults in their early 50s and their TV watching habits. More than 20 years later, brain scans found those who watched the most TV were more likely to have brain changes associated with cognitive decline and dementia. But researchers say it's not simply watching a lot of TV that's linked to brain health. Those who took part in the study were also asked how much of their workday they spent sitting.
The odds of it happening are 1 in 15 million pregnancies. An Australian woman has given birth to identical quadruplets. Wow, the pregnancy was extremely high risk, but Emily, Harriet, Alexa, and Catherine were born at a hospital in Brisbane on July 14th. Through elective cesarean. Doctors say the baby's long-term outlook is really good. They're expected to stay in the neonatal intensive care unit for several weeks. Their parents already have 4 kids, 10, 8, 3, and 1 years old. The family has set up a GoFundMe campaign to help them financially.
The McMichael Canadian Art Collection announced it will undergo extensive renovations, and to do that, they'll be closing for the next 3 years. The Art Museum in Kleinburg says it will close to the public on Sunday. Construction on what it calls a landmark redevelopment of its building and grounds is scheduled to begin in the fall and be completed in 2029. The art collection says the project will add 60% more space for exhibits, education, conservation, and public programming, while modernizing building systems and facilities.
The Toronto International Film Festival has unveiled the majority of its lineup for its 51st edition. It'll feature world premieres for Chris Rock's drama Misty Green, as well as Peter Farrelly's Sylvester Stallone film I Play Rocky. More than 60 films will play in the festival's gala and special presentation selections. Organizers previously announced that Being Human, a film about late disability rights activist Judith Heumann, would open this year's festival. TIFF runs from September 10th later this year, and it goes to the 20th.
Just ahead, the final score for Canada's World Cup coverage. We'll tell you how many Canadians tuned in to watch the beautiful game throughout the tournament and the record-setting final. On the markets today, the Canadian dollar finished down 70.89 cents U.S. West Texas Intermediate oil was also down, closing at $66.59 a barrel. And the TSX was up more than 400 points to close the day over 35,369. Returning to our coverage of the proposed 50% tariffs from the U.S., one of the key industries at risk, dairy.
Absolutely. The U.S. sees the tax as leverage because Americans want access to Canada's very protected market. CTV's Jean-Pierre Bolcheman reports.
Like 6 generations of his family before him, Angus McKinnon has produced milk just a stone's throw from the U.S. border. And he's been wondering when the American neighbors would target the industry.
We've been waiting for Donald Trump to come down on dairy for the last 2 years.
Under the current system, the tariffs will have little impact on producers themselves, though distributors might take a hit. But some producers have feared Canada's supply management system could be sacrificed to appease the U.S. Some critics in this country have said dairy should not be a sacred cow. The U.S. pointed to Canada's supply management system as a main irritant justifying 50% tariffs and put Canadian milk, lactose, and whey on the tariff hit list. Supply management sets quotas for Canadian dairy producers, fixes prices, but also limits dairy imports from the U.S. and other countries, imposing quotas and high tariffs.
Brings a great economic stability. We have a guaranteed price for our milk.
In a statement, the Dairy Farmers of Canada said dairy trade is covered by CUSMA, and the U.S. has been successful in accessing the Canadian market under this agreement. The association said that between 2019 and 2025, exports of U.S. products to Canada rose from $423 million to $1.06 billion. And dairy farmers say they're holding Ottawa to its word that supply management is here to stay. Canada is home to over 9,000 dairy farms, nearly half of which are in Quebec.
Quebec was built on agriculture.
Most are family-run with small herds. The state of Wisconsin alone produces more milk than Canada as a whole. But U.S. President Donald Trump has long said supply management is a highly protectionist barrier, treating American farmers unfairly.
You can see that he's positioning himself, because keep in mind, Middle America elected Donald Trump. Middle America is agriculture.
Milk producers will be watching closely over the next 30 days just what happens with the tariffs. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Quaticook, Quebec.
Toronto and the GTA are seeing a significant expansion in data center construction to meet the growing demands of artificial intelligence. Advocates say the centers will support substantial economic development. However, critics are concerned about the long-term strain on Ontario's electricity supply. Daniel Wigdor, a U of T professor and CEO of AI venture studio AXL, is among more than 200 economists and Nobel laureates who signed an open letter this week urging leaders to act now to manage the economic impact of artificial intelligence.
Oftentimes, the people who are building these things are asking for tax subsidies. And so that's a potentially very high cost. And I think the question we need to be asking is not so much what is the job that's going to be done by a person to build the data center, because that's a relatively short-term proposition. And it's not what is the job that's going to be done by the people running the data centers, because these are largely automatic things that don't require a lot of people. But who are the people who are going to be really benefiting? Who are building the companies that are going to be using these data centers? And what have we done to ensure that that real benefit is going to be accruing to the local community and to Canada? And right now, I haven't seen a lot of evidence that we're ensuring that that's happening.
City councillors in Hamilton recently voted down a temporary pause on new data centers, which had been considered a possible model for other municipalities.
A record number of Canadians tuned in to watch the FIFA World Cup.
Lamine Yamal, Pedro Porro, Williams, and thundered in for Spain by Ferran Torres!
I love that second kick where he kicks over that little white thing there. Okay, TSN says there were more than 30 million unique viewers, which works out to about roughly 75% of Canada's population. 6.4 million viewers tuned in to watch on Sunday to watch Spain beat Argentina, making it the most watched World Cup final ever in Canada. The tournament attracted a per-game average audience of 1.6 million viewers, up more than 50% from both 2022. Now, both TSN and CTV are divisions of Bell Media.
The struggling Blue Jays are looking to bounce back tonight against Tampa at Rogers Centre.
The 2-2. And through the right side, a base hit.
Toronto was hammered 7-1 in last night's opener. The Jays are now 5.5 games out of a wild card spot and have lost 5 of their last 6. Kevin Gosman gets the start tonight.
After the break, meet the robotic trainer designed here in the GTA to help those preparing to be partnered with a guide dog. We'll introduce you to Brando coming up. And finally tonight, it's a new tool to help visually impaired people practice their guide dog skills before they're matched with a canine companion.
This AI-enabled robotic dog was designed at Ontario Tech University. CTV's John Musselman has the story.
His name is Brando. He doesn't bark and he doesn't bite, but he's a pretty good walker. An AI-enabled robot dog prototype created by students at Ontario Tech University in Oshawa.
The first part we can move by the remote, but now we use the AI to control it.
Brando was designed to help people with sight loss practice guide dog skills before being matched with a real canine companion. Dr. Patrick Hung is the lead researcher behind this project.
He or she has to wait for 3 to 5 years to get a real guide dog, okay? And even though like that, after the guide dog is ready, they have to train the person for another half year to either with the guide dog. And the person may never have any experience with a pet at home at all. So that's why we believe that the AI and robotics can play a role. Instead of replace the job of a guide dog, is to help to assist the entire training process.
Developers say Brando can help build confidence for users. Students are working to make it feel real, adding fur, eyes, and ears that move.
Although, yeah, it's a robot, but you want it to still feel like real, and people can actually feel more comfortable touching it.
Similar AI robot dogs have been introduced in some U.S. states where they are being deployed in long-term care homes. They offer support to patients living with dementia. Back here at home, the goal is similar.
We want to do more community engagement programs, such as with CNIB, Canadian Institute for the Blind, so that we can do more user testing to see how people really use that, and we want to see whether to add more functions.
Robot guide dogs could be integrated into the guide dog training program within the next 2 to 3 years. John Musselman, CTV News in Oshawa.
Why it's wearing sunglasses.
Doesn't need them right now.
I think maybe it's a reference to the fact it's a seeing guide dog. They thought it was probably cute to put the sunglasses on the dog. So nice night if you have a dog you need to walk. The smoke is gone. It's cooler outside.
Conditions are improving all around. It's been a very active weather day. We're going to take one more look at the satellite and radar to show you that the thunder and lightning has moved out. The showers are next. Might still see a little bit of wet weather in places tonight, but gone is that severe weather threat. Tomorrow's forecast high 21 degrees. We expect to be at a 3 on the air quality health index. That's an improvement from today as well. And then there's your 7-day forecast. Chance of showers over the weekend and into the early part of next week. Andrea and Nathan.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, I'll be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for the CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
Meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thanks for watching. Have a good night.
All right. A quiet ending.